So, one of the new fantastic things that came with the Daybreak release, Istan and all that good stuff that I totally missed on the first day and only heard about online, is the introduction of a feature system UI thing that I've been asking for ages, that I've wanted in this game ever since I saw an early implementation of it back in Guild Wars 1. No, I'm not talking about the keychain. I'm talking about lore books and a proper user interface for reading them. So this is really thrilling. A little bit of backstory for you guys. Guild Wars, in my opinion, has always had too few outlets in terms of systems within the game to tell its story, to deliver lore to us, whether that be dialogue. I think there are various limitations that they have, or whether that be large walls of text and exposition on the histories of the world. Now, Guild Wars is not the only franchise I'm very interested in the story in, and particularly when it comes to the Elder Scrolls, I've always been envious of their ability to have books in their games that you can open and read. They're lengthy, you get nice turning sound effects as you turn the pages, and it just generally feels a lot more immersive than popping up a dialogue menu when you interact with a pillar or something, say, or when you read a book in Guild Wars 2. Now, throughout Season 3, and in fact earlier than that, around Heart of Thorns, the devs have been doing a lot more to deliver story in the open world, and to give us journals and notation and things like that for us to speculate about and gather. Quite often it's been tied to collections and achievements. It's never really felt that good, and I've always wanted that final step to be complete. I've wanted them to do full-on lore books, and guess what? Here at the start of Season 4 we just got. So there is an achievement. I don't know whether there's more than this, but there is an achievement on the map called Library Detective. And so we collect overdue library books through whatever means necessary. And essentially, if you're playing the PvE, if you do the story and you do the map, you might occasionally find things you can interact with, such as this, just around. You press F on it, and it dings this achievement. But it also puts these items in your inventory. And there's several books, as you can see here. So first we got Kos on Kos, which was checked out by Kos Dejarin of Corner. And the location is unknown, it says. Here we've got a book checked out by a Corsair captain, and it was seen near the flotilla. We've got one at Champion's Dawn, and you get a little hint as to each of them. The final reward for it isn't really anything too particular. The reward really is the books themselves. And as you can see in my inventory here, I've got all the books, just went through and got those before recording the video here. And amazingly, you might not realize you can do this, because if you mouse over one, say there's 101 things the Mordant Crescent doesn't want you to know, checked out by Five Finger Fareem, last seen being arrested for subversion, it doesn't actually say that you can do anything with this. It doesn't say double click to read. There's no like animation that will play on a character that we might notice our friends doing as we read these things. But the truth is, if I double click, we do get this UI element. So, this is actually very reminiscent to me of the Guild Wars 1 version, which I'll throw you guys an image of on the screen. This was added a little bit late to GW1, and it was a reward system to go back and repeatedly do campaign missions and dungeons and things. So we kind of get a Guild Wars 2 version here. It's not perfect, and I suppose I'm always going to nitpick something. I don't like the big box over the top. I don't like it being so evidently a part of the UI. I'd rather we just get the page here appear, and maybe something more of an animation on it. But they did do very well with the sound effects. In fact, it might actually only appear as a sound effect volume. But if we go to one that has multiple pages, like, for example, Jesus Christ, like this one, for example, and I notice here that not many of them have multiple pages. If we click, we do get the nice little, you know, ASMR kind of lovely book page turning sound effect, which is been one of the criteria I've always wanted for this. So this might look like a lot of fuss over nothing to you guys, but I really think stuff like this is important. I think that this has bumped Season 4 that little bit higher up in quality, and I hope that this is the beginning of integration of a lot more books and systems that use these books as the story and the content progresses. So I also want to read these to you all, obviously. It wouldn't be a video about this new lore system if I didn't do that. So we'll just go in order. First is Kos on Kos. So let's double click. Now, Kos on Kos was an ascended back piece in the game since the Fractal update, way back in 2012. Koss was a very prominent hero character that we met in the original game in Nightfall. Egotistical, big-headed, boisterous character. It was kind of cool to see that, you know, he wrote his own autobiography. However, here in this patch, we get the extended edition, which we cannot wear, but so this is what it says. Author's note: while my publisher insists that there is no need for a continued chronicling of my deeds, I feel a duty to my readers to persist, while Koss on Koss remains a definitive examination of my past. This extended edition shall be rendered as an examination of the present. So we kind of get the after years. Season of the Scion, and it's kind of ironic, that opening paragraph, actually, because, of course, by the time he's written the extended edition, it's all in his past, and then he cannot say that the original book is definitive any longer, but hey. So, Season of the Scion. So, we're on 1093 AE, which is a few years after the closing days of Guild Wars 1. Being a total nerd, I'm kind of upset that they say Season of the Scion and they use AE, since Koss would have been an Alolan and would have actually used Dynastic Reckoning instead. Is it Dynastic Reckoning, or was that the Factions timeline? Anyway, he says, curse the day we released that walking corpse. Joko's forces continue to harass patrols along the outskirts of Varby. The Sunspears are meant to send reinforcements to help secure the border, but we are so few we can only spare a handful. It's going to take a long while before we rebuild our numbers after the Battle of Gandhara. It's interesting. So Gandhara is the capital city in Corner, massive city. I'm really excited to get to in Season 4, and we get a little bit of a hint as to it there. They do make this mistake again. We really didn't release Joko. Joko got released by the Weakening of the Realms and the release of Abaddon, or, you know, Abaddon's struggles. What we did was help him regain a foothold once he was back out. We just happened to see him as he was released because of a vision Cormier had. But again, maybe I'm being nitpicky. The 220th day, Maloney continues to hassle me, he says. So Maloney is his wife, who he had a child with, as we find out when we meet Cosson in the Path of Fire main story. Says that I've brawled enough, that it's time that I let the fighting to the next generation of recruits. This guy was a warrior, and he was the original hero. He is the original guy that was with you, so the idea of him constantly fighting is very, it's something that makes me smile. Says, honestly, if even one of them could beat me in single combat, I might consider hanging up my sword. Thus far, none have impressed. Tomorrow, I set out for the border with the Desolation. Joko's rise is as much my fault as anyone's, so I intend to make myself a part of the solution. Besides, it's not as if any of these new recruits are qualified to hold an undead king at bay. Next, we have the 201st day. Nightmares, 5 nights in a row. I see the estate ablaze and I can hear screaming. So he talks about the estate. This is the Dejarin estate. This is his family homes area. There were a lot of side quests related to this in Nightfall. I can hear screaming. I fear these are meant to be my children, though it's been so long since I've heard their voices that I simply cannot tell. But there is another voice I hear. His laughter. The Sunspears refuse to heed my continued warnings about Joko, much to my growing frustration. The Lich has centuries-old history of being a thorn in Alona's side, so I don't know why the Order believes Joko will be content to remain in the Desolation. He's planning something, and I fear my dreams are but a hint of things to come. So this is just before shit hits the fan. I've just reminded myself in editing here as well that I'll point out in the main Nightfall story, the idea of whether there's any substance in visions from dreams was a big story beat with Maloney in the Nightfall campaign. There's this whole thing, mind over matter. Do you listen to Koss, who has realistic ideas about where Abaddon's going to attack, or Maloney, who's just been having these dreams? And here late in life, we see Koss does now listen to his dreams too. So I wish that they'd added something about that between Koss and his wife there, but yeah, alright, I get it. They can't do everything. The 301st day. Those foolish princes in Vabi continue to sit on their backsides while the citizens are continually abducted by Joko's forces. And while the royalty of Vabi wring their hands, the Sunspears are proving no better. They sit on the border, more than ready to teach the festering pile of bones a thing or two, but they refuse to act. The nightmares persist and become clearer each night. I see now that this is not a threat, but a warning. Perhaps it's Cormier sending me a message? I sent word to Maloney to take our children somewhere safe. This is interesting, the idea of the 3 princes, by the way, because one of the princes wasn't a coward. And I think that Nightfall was kind of supposed to be a lesson to all of the princes. You would have thought they would have acted faster. I wonder if Guild Wars 1 Beyond had continued to do Nightfall stuff, we would have seen these princes be so sloth-like again. Or maybe they would have been a little bit more responsive to things. I don't know, we also had the MOX quest, which really sort of demonstrated some of the mana change, but hey. Let's move on to the last page. The 325th day. Enough is enough. it is clear to any with half a brain that Joko is kidnapping these civilians to grow his army. One need only look at the numbers of the missing to conclude that this Lich is preparing for an invasion. Lonai and I have gotten a few volunteers together, and we make for the Bone Palace at dawn. I don't know how you assassinate an undead king, but I figure if I hit him hard enough, I might be able to bust a few of those bones that hold his ugly face together. Not that I'm at all questioning my skills, but should I not return and someone finds this, please send my love to my wife and children. So there you go. Really cool. Now, there's an amazing hint here at Lonai. You guys might not know, and I'll talk about this more in an upcoming video, but in the main story, there's a weird, secret, mysterious character that appears in one of the instances, and I'm thinking this reference of Lonai here could mean that it's Lonai. Lonai was kind of a tertiary NPC, sort of a quest giver, but they were very much associated with the early Sunspear Assault on Corner and the building of the Sunspear Sanctuary there, which seem to be places I think that Living World Season 4 is going to take us very soon. So great hints, really love this book, and yeah, what an experience. Great experience to actually be able to read this like this, right? You got the page numbers at the bottom, you get the nice little sound effect. It's not perfect, but it's so much better than clicking through just a regular dialogue box as if, you know, we're speaking to an NPC. This is great. And I always know when it's a good feature that's come in the game when I wish that all the old content had the benefit of it, right? One thing that I guess it's also still missing is like imagery. I'd love like a little, you know, a little bit of concept art or whatever, maybe on one page, or notation or bloodstains and things. You'll remember in one of the raid wings, not any of the recent ones, but they did as promotional material some images. In fact, I'll throw them on screen. These here, right? It'd be cool if we could get that kind of thing delivered through this user interface, and maybe that's what this like box is seeking to do. So there you go. That's Cost on Cost, the extended edition. Not all of the books are anywhere near that long, by the way. So, let's go on. So, this next one is Everyone's a Corsair, a guidebook. This you find at the Flotilla and the Corsair area. A lot of finding these is actually quite fun, too. I'll throw some little images there for you guys to see how to get to it. But here we go. So, let's read this. The sea beckons... And I won't do a terrible pirate voice, I promise. The sea beckons to us all, yet only a handful of enterprising privateers have managed to turn it into a successful career. What separates these seafaring scalawags from an everyday landlubber like you? With this book in your hands, nothing. Even if you can't tie a knot to save your life, even if you think port is just a fancy wine, and even if the mere thought of standing on a boat makes you queasy, this step-by-step guide will give you the tools to transform yourself into a hardened corsair. Learn the following vital skills to grow your sea legs. The basics of swordplay, complete with gorgeously rendered illustrations. Surviving on a desert island in the event of a marooning. 3 valuable tricks to identify suspect grog. How to spot mutinous crew members. And much more. So this one's just 2 pages. Obviously, the idea is we're holding the whole book, but we can't read the whole book. But I think this works too. You know, what I think we've seen the devs do here is experiment with kind of more of a long-form thing, and then also experiment with more of a short thing. You know, I can imagine this as a dialogue window, as they used to do, but I'd expect this is so liberating, and I wonder if that will affect the quality and quantity of writing we get in these patches, just because they have the space now, you know. Next one here, this is the Battle of Sorrow's Furnace. So, if you guys don't know, Sorrow's Furnace was one of the most prominent big endgame updates to ever come to Guild Wars 1, way back before even Factions came out. This was about when I just started playing the game. This was some of my earliest stuff. So this was checked out by Farir, and you can find it in Champion's Dawn. You actually find it in an old, ancient graveyard, I think, which is an interesting area of the map I hadn't probably explored until I came to do this collection, so that was nice. The Battle of Sorrow's Furnace. For generations, the Dredge were a race enslaved, driven to serve the tyrannical Stone Summit in their never-ending lust for wealth and power. While many across Tyria desired to see these poor souls freed from their burden, none had the courage to act. Until now. Follow our beloved and revered savior, Palawa Joko, as he continues his grand work throughout this broken world, bringing order from turmoil and freedom to those oppressed. Read in awe as he single-handedly battles the mechanical monstrosity known as the Iron Forgeman, humiliating the cowardly Stone Summit once and for all. Will Joko succeed? Could the great and eternal Palawa Joko fail? To write as such would be blasphemy, but one can never know the truth without reading this fascinating tale. This almost reads like the blurb of the book. Amazing to see such reference to the Stone Summit. Another thing I've always wanted is like a bestiary that would inherit this kind of user interface. And it's amazing because the opening paragraph feels like a bestiary entry for, you know, a faction, the Stone Summit. Really weird reading about the Stone Summit from friggin' Istan, and a lot this patch does that. It draws some other areas of lore in a beautiful way. It sort of juxtaposes what we're currently experiencing with some old stuff. And so, yeah, a brilliant little book. Of course, we know that Palawa did not defeat the Iron Forgeman. Of course, we know it's even still around in Guild Wars 2 if you do the main quest story dungeons. But I like the lingering idea. Did Palawa have a part to play in the downfall of the Stone Summit? Beyond what we already know and the Rite of the Great Dwarf and so forth. Kind of interesting. It's also weird to me to think why the writers reminding of us the Stone Summit there, but hey. So there you go, that's third book. Fourth book was called The Great Joko, Hero of Tyria. This was checked out by Brother Aslim, and it's seen in the Temple of Joko. So this is the only time-gated one. This was a bit of an annoying video to make, because I got all of the books, and then I had to find an assault on the Sunspear Great Hall, which is so cool, by the way. We'll touch on that in another production, I guess. But yeah, so we get to read about this. The Great Joko, Hero of Tyria. Ascalon is a scorched wasteland. Ore decays at the bottom of the sea. Kryta suffers under the yoke of fanatical murderers. Tyria needs a hero, but who could think to rise above such chaos? Who wields the power to overcome such incredible odds? A hero once spoken of in the storied Flameseeker prophecies was destined to purge this cancerous growth. What was that hero's name? Palawa Joko. Join our wise and illustrious leader as he single-handedly drives back the savage Char horde, marches across the Shiver Peaks without a single break in his stride, and saves all of Tyria from generations of traitors and false heroes. So this is kind of like the book that we filled in by completing campaign missions in Guild Wars 1, the Flameseeker Prophecies, but it's rewritten to highlight Joko as the hero and not the main character in Menlo and Aiden and Sin and Eve and so forth. Kind of great. I also wonder if that mention about him not breaking his stride in the Shiver Peaks was somehow a reference to Rurik's death, and though if it was Joko that did it, no one would have been lost. I don't know. Next we have Awakening the Heart. So this one's... this is the one at the Great Hall. The other one was just in Palawa Dam, which you can get at any point. Yeah, so which is also a great area. But okay, so this is the time-gated one. Awakened to Passion. She was an elite soldier in the Mordant Crescent, brought back from the dead to serve the great Palawa Joko, but the only thing that was awakened in her was her heart. He was a simple mummy, adorned in rotting bandages that held him together, but in truth, he was coming to pieces inside. Together they found a relationship that defied death itself and began an adventure that would shake the foundations of the Bone Palace itself as they sought to answer a simple question. Can love endure after a heart stops beating? I love this. It's a great rom-com novel here. We got it. It's beautiful. It's like Mills and Boone for the undead. I just love the idea of an awakened, hiding on a toilet somewhere, reading page after page of this book, Awakened to Passion. Great stuff. Very tongue-in-cheek. Love it. So next we got 101 things to know that the Mordant Crescent doesn't want you to know. Did you know Desolation Fever could be cured with naught but specially prepared sentient root? Are you aware that you can comfortably sustain a family of 5 with a simple combination of a common household products? Of course not, because Joko doesn't want you to know. In this book, I'll share with you 101 things that Palawa Joko and his corrupt Mordant Crescent would prefer remain secret. These simple ingredients for greater health, wealth, and success were formerly restricted to the royalty of Vabi, but now they can be yours. We stand by our product and guarantee your complete satisfaction. Guarantee not valid for residents of Vabi, Corner, Istan, or other outlying areas of Alona. Neither the author of this book nor its publisher are responsible for any imprisonment and or executions that result from possession of this book, nor can they be held liable for any deaths or injury that result from the recipes therein. Love it. Absolutely brilliant. And it's kind of fun hearing about Sentient Root there. I actually think that was a drop that you could collect in GW1. And so, finally, we have Mysteries of the Night Sky. Probably one of the books I want more than anything else to have extra pages on, but there you have it. For generations, Istan has drawn stargazers from all corners of the world, and we collect that here, by the way, at the Astralarium. From all corners of the world to marvel at its unique and awe-inspiring astronomical phenomena. Home of the world-renowned Astralarium, as well as some of the finest natural vantage points for Tyria's most vibrant meteor showers, this island nation has quickly become the go-to travel destination for any astronomy aficionado. With this comprehensive guidebook, we will teach you how to turn your sights to the stars and appreciate the splendor of the night sky without the expensive equipment the experts use. Even if you've never looked through a telescope, this book will get you started on your journey to map the stars and chart the heavens. I wish they'd mentioned, I don't know, name drop the Jotun somehow in here. Just to remind the more casual viewers that this was the big thing about the Jotun. But there you go. And it's interesting to hear meteor showers being talked about. I know that most of us, in terms of gameplay, are very familiar with the idea of meteor showers and Guild Wars. But in lore, you don't really hear about that kind of thing too much. Or, you know, starbound phenomena. And so there you have it, guys. That is their new method for delivering lore books. What do we think? Like I said, I think that more of this will go a long way in future patches. We basically have what I've wanted for ages, which is a map we can explore, a component of exploration, and via an achievement, sadly, not, you know, like a main function up here on the top left, but as a component of exploration, we're finding books that you can properly read and collect. How fantastic is that? Can't wait to see other ways that the writers play with this, whether they go more gung-ho and, you know, write a lot more long-form ones, or whether we'll see lots of short things, whether they'll be able to get more images in there, ripped notes and stuff like that that we can combine together, jigsaw puzzles, like, it's brilliant. So anyway, one of the highlights for me of the patch, absolutely fantastic. Very happy to share it with you all, and still plenty more to come. Thanks very much for watching, guys. I'd love to hear what you think about this. Am I giving it a lot of fuss and ado, even though it's nothing? We'll have to see. Cheers, everyone, and I'll see you very shortly.